Setting boundaries with courage is a practice that many of us shy away from. We're often taught to be people pleasers, to cater to others' needs and to maintain relationships no matter how they make us feel. But the truth is, you cannot pour from an empty cup. When we don't set clear boundaries, we start to lose a sense of who we are. Our energy, time, and emotional reserves get drained by people who take, and take without giving back. Boundaries are not walls to isolate ourselves. They are markers that define our personal space, emotional capacity, and the kind of energy we are willing to accept. Setting these boundaries requires bravery because it often involves saying no to things, people, and situations that have overstayed their welcome. It means standing firm in your values, even if others don't understand or approve. We often fear that setting boundaries will make us seem selfish or uncaring, but in reality, it's the most self-loving thing we can do. It's about recognizing our own needs and not feeling guilty for honoring them. Courage in boundary setting is not just about saying no to others. It's about saying yes to yourself. Yes to peace. Yes to self-respect. Yes to mental clarity. When you set boundaries, you might face resistance, especially from those who are used to you being available, compliant, or always on for them. But the moment you make a decision to protect your emotional space, you reclaim your power. It's a reminder that you are in control of your own narrative. You no longer have to endure draining conversations, toxic energy, or obligations that do not serve your well-being. Setting boundaries is also an act of self-awareness. It's about understanding your own limits and recognizing when you're being pushed beyond them. It's about acknowledging that you have the right to protect your mental and emotional health, and that sometimes walking away is the healthiest decision you can make. This process may be uncomfortable, but discomfort is often the pathway to growth. In a world that constantly demands more from us, boundary setting becomes an act of rebellion against societal expectations that often leave us feeling overwhelmed and undervalued. But when you set boundaries, you are choosing to step into your truth. You are choosing to live intentionally, and in that decision lies incredible strength. The courage to say no, to walk away, and to ghost the things that no longer serve you is a form of liberation. It is an affirmation that your well-being is worth more than any external validation or approval. Self-worth is something that must come from within, not from external sources. We live in a world that constantly measures our value based on the opinions, expectations, and judgments of others. From the likes on social media to the praise or criticism we receive from our families, friends, and colleagues, we are often led to believe that our worth is conditional, dependent on how others see us. This external validation becomes a source of power, a way to feel seen, valued, and loved. But here's the reality. When your self-worth relies on the approval of others, you are giving away your power. You are allowing external circumstances to dictate your sense of self, and that is a dangerous place to be. True self-worth doesn't come from someone else's recognition, applause, or praise. It comes from understanding and embracing who you are without needing anyone's approval. It's about knowing deep down that you are enough as you are without the need for anyone's validation. When you prioritize your self-worth over external validation, you stop living in reaction to what others expect of you, and you start living in alignment with your own truth, values, and beliefs. This shift in mindset is not always easy. It takes time, practice, and a great deal of self-reflection. You have to learn how to sit with yourself, to acknowledge your own feelings, and to trust your inner voice rather than seeking reassurance from others. It means recognizing that your value does not diminish if someone rejects you, criticizes you, or chooses not to acknowledge your efforts. The opinions of others, no matter how loud or persistent, do not define you unless you allow them to. When you stop relying on external validation, you begin to make decisions based on what's best for you, not because you need to gain approval or avoid criticism, but because you understand that your happiness, peace, and well-being are your own responsibility. You begin to realize that when you are true to yourself, you attract the right people, the right opportunities, and the right circumstances into your life, not because you are trying to impress or please anyone, but because you are showing up as your authentic self. Living with self-worth as your foundation gives you the strength to say no when something or someone doesn't align with your values or respect your boundaries. It allows you to walk away from situations that drain you, relationships that don't nourish you, and environments that stifle your growth. You no longer need the validation of others to feel worthy because you have already recognized your own value. It also teaches you the importance of internal growth over external achievements. While external accomplishments like landing a job, getting a promotion, or receiving accolades are important, they should never be the sole measure of your worth. Achievements come and go, but your worth remains constant when it is grounded in who you are, not what you do. You become more resilient because your identity is not tied to your success or failure, but to your inherent worth as a human being. True self-worth allows you to take risks, make bold decisions, and move forward with confidence because you are no longer afraid of the judgments or reactions of others. You can pursue your passions and dreams not because others expect you to, but because it fulfills you and aligns with who you are. The need for external validation diminishes, and in its place, you experience a profound sense of peace and inner contentment. Choosing to prioritize self-worth over external validation is a courageous act of self-love. It is a choice to honor yourself, to trust in your own abilities, and to value yourself unconditionally. It means understanding that your worth doesn't fluctuate based on someone else's opinion or approval, and that you, in your entirety, are enough right now as you are. The power of silence is often underestimated in a world that celebrates noise, constant communication, and the need to always have something to say. In our society, we are conditioned to believe that silence equates to weakness or passivity, but in reality, silence can be one of the most powerful tools we have. It is in the quiet moments that we often find the strength to reflect, regroup, and find clarity. Silence is not about saying nothing. It is about choosing when to speak and when to stay quiet. And in that choice, there is immense power. When we learn the power of silence, we begin to understand that not every situation requires a response. Too often, we feel the need to react immediately, to defend ourselves, to explain ourselves, or to fill the silence with words. But sometimes, the best thing we can do is to remain silent. In those moments, we allow ourselves to process our thoughts, to assess the situation, and to make decisions from a place of calm rather than reaction. Silence gives us the space to think clearly, to choose our words thoughtfully, and to prevent ourselves from saying things we might later regret. Silence also creates a barrier against manipulation and emotional manipulation. When we are silent, we take control of our own emotions. We no longer allow others to provoke us into saying or doing things that aren't aligned with our true selves. Silence allows us to detach from the drama, the chaos, and the noise of the world. It helps us protect our emotional well-being and prevents us from being swept up in the currents of other people's issues or conflicts. When you choose to be silent in the face of disrespect or negativity, you are taking back your power. You are refusing to engage in the energy that seeks to drain you. The power of silence is also in its ability to make others think. When we stop talking, we create space for others to reflect on their actions, their words, and their behavior. Silence can be an indirect way of communicating that something is wrong, that you are no longer willing to engage, or that you need a moment to process. Sometimes when people realize that you are no longer reacting or responding, they are forced to confront the situation themselves. Silence forces introspection. It makes people sit with their own thoughts and come to terms with their own actions without relying on you to provide the answers or the emotional reaction. Silence also holds the power of protection. It is a shield that keeps your inner world safe from the noise of others. When you are silent, you are not allowing your peace to be disturbed by external factors. You are taking the time to protect your energy and create a boundary between yourself and the things that do not serve you. Silence in this context is a form of self-care. It is a choice to step away from conversations or situations that drain you and to preserve your mental and emotional health. In moments of silence, you reclaim your sense of self and distance yourself from the things that try to take away your peace. Furthermore, silence has the power to amplify your presence. When you choose silence at the right moment, you are often making a stronger statement than if you were speaking. In a world full of noise, being silent can draw attention to your presence and communicate strength and confidence. People may begin to pay closer attention to your actions, your behavior, and the way you carry yourself, rather than focusing on the words you speak. Silence can make your message clearer because it forces others to focus on what truly matters, your actions, your demeanor, and your energy, rather than the surface level chatter. When we embrace silence, we also unlock the ability to listen deeply. Silence allows us to truly hear others, not just their words, but their emotions, intentions, and underlying messages. In the silence, we can tune in to the subtleties of a conversation, the unspoken truths, and the feelings that are not being expressed in words. This deeper level of listening is a powerful skill that fosters understanding, connection, and empathy. Silence allows us to be present in the moment and to show up for others without needing to fill the space with our own opinions or judgments. There is a profound sense of peace that comes with embracing silence. It is in the quiet moments of reflection that we reconnect with ourselves, our values, and our purpose. Silence has a way of grounding us, of slowing us down, and of bringing us back to a place of inner calm. In a world that is constantly moving, silence is a sanctuary, a safe space where we can breathe, think, and just be. Learning to harness the power of silence is about reclaiming your own voice. It's about understanding that you don't need to be constantly speaking to be heard. Your presence, your energy, and your actions speak louder than any words you could ever say. Silence is not the absence of communication. It is the choice of when and how to communicate with intention. Emotional detachment is often misunderstood as a form of coldness or indifference. We associate detachment with being unfeeling or disconnected from the world around us, when in fact, emotional detachment is a profound act of empowerment. It is not about shutting down your emotions, but about developing the strength to no longer let your emotions control you. Emotional detachment is about creating the space necessary to observe your feelings without being ruled by them. It's about recognizing that your emotional state is not dictated by external factors, but rather by your inner responses and choices. When we talk about emotional detachment, we are referring to the ability to separate your sense of self-worth and identity from external situations and people. In a world where we often attach our value to how others see us or react to us, Emotional detachment allows us to step back and understand that we are complete on our own, without needing validation or approval from others. It's about learning to let go of the need for constant reassurance and accepting that you don't need the approval of others to be whole. This detachment does not mean you stop caring about others or stop feeling deeply. Rather, it means you choose to let go of the emotional ties that no longer serve you. When we allow ourselves to become emotionally entangled with others' behaviors, opinions, or actions, we put ourselves at the mercy of their moods and decisions. This entanglement can be exhausting and disempowering. Emotional detachment is the key to regaining your autonomy because it enables you to recognize that other people's actions are a reflection of them, not a reflection of your worth. To detach emotionally is to recognize that you cannot control others' actions, but you can control your response. You are not a victim of anyone else's moods or behavior. You are a sovereign being who has the power to choose how you react. Detachment gives you the freedom to respond with clarity, to choose peace over chaos, and to make decisions based on your values rather than your emotions in the moment. In this space, you are no longer reacting impulsively or out of fear, but responding thoughtfully and with intention. This process of detachment is particularly empowering when dealing with toxic relationships or situations. It's easy to become entangled in the drama, negativity, or emotional turmoil of others. People can try to pull you into their conflicts, their insecurities, or their issues, but emotional detachment creates a boundary that protects you from being dragged into these dynamics. It's the understanding that while you may care for someone, their emotional baggage is not yours to carry. You can love someone without taking on their emotional pain as your own. Detachment also frees you from the grip of past experiences or unresolved wounds. Many of us are carrying emotional weight from previous relationships, betrayals, or disappointments that still dictate our current feelings and actions. Emotional detachment allows you to separate the past from the present. It's about understanding that your past doesn't define your future, and that you are not bound by the emotional scars left by others' actions. By letting go of these attachments, you create the space to heal and grow without being held back by what happened before. In practice, emotional detachment means learning how to observe your emotions from a distance without judgment. It's about stepping out of the storm of your feelings and becoming an observer, noticing what arises within you without letting it take over. This doesn't mean suppressing or ignoring your emotions, but instead acknowledging them without being swept away by them. You begin to see your emotions as signals, information that you can use to understand yourself better rather than as commands that dictate your actions. This type of detachment also cultivates self-compassion. By separating your emotions from your identity, you create a space for self-awareness and self-care. You learn to recognize when you are becoming emotionally overwhelmed and take steps to protect yourself. You give yourself permission to step back, breathe, and create distance from situations or people that trigger emotional responses that are not conducive to your peace or well-being. Emotional detachment empowers you to protect your inner peace without feeling guilty or selfish for doing so. One of the most profound aspects of emotional detachment is its ability to foster true inner peace. When you are no longer emotionally attached to the outcomes of other people's actions or the expectations of the world around you, you create a sanctuary within yourself. This inner peace allows you to navigate life's challenges with greater ease because you are no longer driven by reactive emotions. You can move through the ups and downs of life with grace and resilience, knowing that your emotional well-being is in your hands and it doesn't rely on anything outside of you. Emotional detachment as empowerment also means embracing the idea that you are responsible for your own emotional state. You are not at the mercy of circumstances or people. You can choose how you react, how you feel, and how you want to show up in the world. This empowers you to stop giving away your emotional energy to things and people that don't deserve it. It's about taking your emotional power back and choosing to spend your energy on the things that truly matter, things that contribute to your growth, happiness, and well-being. By practicing emotional detachment, you begin to live life on your own terms. You make decisions based on your core values, not your momentary emotional reactions. You stop chasing after approval, validation, or acceptance from others. You understand that you don't need anyone else to complete you because you are already whole. Emotional detachment allows you to move through life with a sense of purpose, inner strength, and unshakable confidence. Moving forward without guilt is one of the most liberating and empowering decisions you can make for yourself. We often carry guilt for various reasons, whether it's because of past mistakes, relationships that didn't work out, or choices we made that we now regret. We are taught that guilt is a way of holding ourselves accountable. But what we don't always realize is that guilt can be a heavy burden that holds us back from living fully and authentically. When we choose to move forward without guilt, we are choosing freedom. Freedom from the weight of the past and the emotional shackles that prevent us from embracing the future with open arms. Guilt often stems from our internalized beliefs that we have wronged someone or failed to meet an expectation, whether it's our own or someone else's. But in reality, guilt is rarely productive. It keeps us tethered to the past, constantly reliving moments we cannot change. Every time we think about a situation with guilt, we are reinforcing the notion that we are not worthy of happiness or success. And this belief can prevent us from stepping into our power. Moving forward without guilt means releasing ourselves from the expectations and judgments that no longer serve us. It's the understanding that we are human and we are allowed to make mistakes. It's about recognizing that growth happens through learning, not through perpetual self-punishment. When we refuse to move forward with guilt, we are not ignoring our past or pretending that mistakes didn't happen. We are acknowledging that our past does not define who we are today, nor does it dictate who we are becoming. We take responsibility for our actions and learn from them, but we do not allow those mistakes to control our narrative. Each of us is a work in progress, and we are constantly evolving. The guilt of yesterday does not have to dictate the joy of tomorrow. Moving forward without guilt requires us to trust in our ability to learn, adapt, and grow from our experiences, rather than remain stuck in the shame of what we could have done differently. One of the most powerful aspects of moving forward without guilt is the ability to forgive yourself. So many of us hold onto guilt because we struggle to forgive ourselves for past decisions or actions. Self-forgiveness is not about excusing or justifying past behavior. It's about recognizing that we are deserving of compassion. When we let go of guilt, we allow ourselves to heal from past wounds and begin to see ourselves as worthy of the same love and understanding that we give to others. Holding on to guilt keeps us trapped in a cycle of negative self-talk and inner criticism. Forgiveness, on the other hand, releases us from that cycle and allows us to move forward with confidence and peace. Guilt can also arise from our relationships with others. We may feel guilty about letting someone down or about walking away from a relationship that no longer serves us. But the reality is that you cannot live your life for someone else. Moving forward without guilt means acknowledging that we have the right to make decisions that prioritize our well-being, even if they may not align with someone else's expectations or desires. It's about recognizing that your happiness and mental health are worth protecting, even if it means disappointing others in the process. It's not about being selfish. It's about understanding that you cannot pour from an empty cup, and sometimes you need to choose yourself. Another important aspect of moving forward without guilt is the recognition that you are allowed to change. We often carry guilt because we feel we've outgrown a situation, relationship, or role, but change is a natural part of life. Moving forward without guilt means embracing the person you have become and allowing that person to evolve without looking back in regret. It's about giving yourself permission to outgrow old versions of yourself without guilt. We are not static beings. We are dynamic and ever-changing, and we should honor the journey of becoming without being weighed down by who we used to be. Sometimes guilt is linked to the fear that we are not doing enough, whether it's in our personal lives, careers, or relationships. We live in a culture that often tells us we must always be doing more, achieving more, and giving more. This constant pressure can lead to feelings of guilt when we don't measure up to these external standards. But the truth is, we are enough just as we are, and doing less does not make us less worthy. Moving forward without guilt means letting go of the need to constantly prove yourself to others or to meet impossible expectations. It's about learning to be content with where you are while still striving for growth and improvement in a way that feels authentic to you. Moving forward without guilt is a powerful act of self-liberation. It's about releasing the emotional burdens of past mistakes, unhealed wounds, and unmet expectations. By letting go of guilt, we reclaim our autonomy, allowing ourselves to grow and evolve freely. Self-forgiveness, emotional detachment, and setting boundaries all play key roles in this process, helping us heal and embrace our true worth. Moving forward without guilt means accepting that we are allowed to change, prioritize our well-being, and make decisions that serve our highest good, even when others may not understand. It's about recognizing that our past doesn't define us, and that our value is not contingent upon anyone else's approval. As we release guilt, we create space for joy, inner peace, and personal growth. Ultimately, moving forward without guilt empowers us to live authentically, confidently, and in alignment with our truest selves.